Welcome everybody, dear professor, dear colleagues, dear friends. Welcome to our event, International Roma Day in the Time of War, solidarity event in the support of Ukrainian Roma. My name is Milena Chmilovsky. I am an MA student in Human Rights, and together today with my colleague Maria Atanasova, student in the Political Science Department, I will lead you to the event. Today, event is organized and led by Romani graduate students of CEU, and we are welcoming our LGBTQ colleagues as well here today in Vienna. Also, we are glad to welcome all our online participants who were not able to attend today's event here. And now I will share with you a short overview of today's event. Firstly, we will present main symbols of International Roma Day. After that, we will share a short documentary movie made by our colleagues. And lastly, we will have panel discussion regarding the situation, regarding the movie that is focused on the war in Kosovo, and also regarding the war in Ukraine that is currently happening. So also I would like to express our solidarity with all people facing the war, regardless of their ethnicity, their gender, their geographical location. Today we will present the perspective and perception of Roma in the time of war. Also, International Roma Day is a very significant event. Today is the 51st anniversary of International Roma Day. In that name, I would like to ask you kindly to stand up because we will now play our anthem to open officially today's event. Also, our anthem is done by our colleagues, very talented, and I'm very proud of them, 3 of them.
I remember the first time I heard our national anthem. The lyrics and music written by Žarko Jovanović touched me profoundly. Each tone of the accordion brings untold story of Samudari pen, and the fear nested within my inner being comes alive. Yet, at the same time, our anthem invokes feelings of resilience, pride, and joy in me. Our anthem is engraved with both pain and joy. Jalam Jalam celebrates the integration of all aspects of life as a path toward liberation of the community and the individual. It is powerful. It melts your heart before giving it life. It teaches you that at the ashes of your great hopelessness lies the great opportunity and lies the greatest strength of your heart. And it also says that you have, always, you have a new opportunity to love beyond the pain.
It was made last year on the 50th anniversary of International Roma Day. And in the video, the main singers are Sevdjulje, who is today with us, Gopalas, and our colleague Ersan as well. Also, last year we in 1971 in London on the first International Roma Conference, it was decided about the Roma flag as well, like one of the main Roma symbols. Now, also, I would like to ask kindly Martin to share the short story also made last year by some of our colleagues and the meaning behind that. What is the meaning of Roma flag for all of us on the world level?
When Roma leaders met in 1971, designing the Roma flag was one of their priority tasks. In a time when flags helped gain recognition as a nation, in a world increasingly composed of nation-states, this made sense. The purpose of a flag, any flag, is to tell our collective history by evoking emotions. Each time I see the Roma flag at an event, on the internet, or simply hanging from a window, I feel warm inside, because the person who owns that flag is just like me, someone who seeks those little moments of belonging. As funny as it may sound, I felt proud when Tyson Fury wore my flag on his shorts. It is in moments like that I'm reminded that I belong to a nation. To me, the blue on our flag is an ode to everlasting hope in a better tomorrow, and the green reminds us to stand firmly on the ground and recognize our bond with Mother Nature. The wheel is a hint of our connectedness to India and a reminder that our ancestors were often on the move, searching for a place at which they will feel welcome, a place they could call home.
That was a short video about our flag. Also, it presents several generations of Roma students. Also, one of the narrator is our dear colleague Nadia, that on this occasion, I'm sorry that because she's not with us today. Now, we will move to the movie screening of the movie of my childhood, or How I Fled the War in Kosovo. Movie presents the struggles and memories of the people of Kosovo who fled the war. Also, it emphasizes the personal and professional hopes and progress of the main characters. One of the authors of the movie, Sevdjulje Ramadani, who is today with us, fled the war as well. Also, the second co-director of the movie is Ana Gudaze. Now we will watch the short movie, and then we will have discussion regarding the Kosovo War on the one hand, and also
At the TV headquarters, there was terrible damage. The missile smashed into the heart of the complex, which NATO regards as a key prop of President Milosevic's regime. NATO thought about this attack long and hard before striking at what it believed was a bastion of the Milosevic regime. But the human cost has been tragically high.
Pogotovo ta prva noć bombardovanja, recimo, to je ostalo jako upečatljivo nekako. Sjećam se mame i tate koji nekako traže, ne znam, neko čebe da postave na prozoru, jer mama nam je kasnije govorila, jer na vijestima je bilo, mislim da je predsjednik tadašnje, kažem, Jugoslavije rekao, spremite se, večeras nas bombarduju.
Tada moje djetinjstvo je meni lepo izgledalo, meni je bilo lepo, ja sam imala sa kim da se igram, da se družim i bila sam zadovoljna. Međutim, kad su svi ti nemiri počeli, naravno ja nisam razumela o čemu se radi ni zašto se to dešava, ali sam videla da se nešto postoji, pojavljuju se raznorazni tenkovi, vojska, ljudi odlaze pa dolaze, prosto nešto vidim da se dešava, ali nije mi sasvim jasno zašto i zbog čega.
Razmišljam o svom djetinjstvu, na neki način smatram da sam uskraćen za normalno, da kažem, djetinjstvo, jer sam već u 6. godini, moja porodica, mislim, bili smo nekako prinuđeni da napustimo naše ognjište i da preko noći postanemo izbjeglice i da se nađemo u jednoj novoj sredini.
Sjećam se da sam tada dobila neke flomastere od svoje tetke i to je bilo prvi put da sam ja dobila neku vrstu igračke ili uopšte nekog pribora za igru i da sam bila jako srećna zbog toga i da sam trčala kući da to pokažem mami kako ću ja sada da crtam i da radim i onda sam je vidjela kako pakuje stvari i govorila je moramo brzo da krenemo. I ubrzo nakon toga smo zaista i otišli, ali nismo znali ni gde idemo, ni zašto idemo, ni...
U toku bombardovanja moj brat je bio kod moje babe u drugom gradu. I mi 3 mjeseca nismo uopšte znali šta se dešava sa njima, jer nismo mogli nikako da ih kontaktiramo, nisu moji mogli ni da pođu do njih, ali dobili smo bili informaciju da cijela moja, kažem, familija sa mamine strane da su ubijeni. I mi smo bukvalno, moji su živjeli u tom uverenju da je moj brat najvjerovatnije mrtav. Sećam se mame i tate koji su plakali bukvalno kada su vidjeli da dolaze. Oni su mislili da im se priviđa bukvalno.
Pa ja se sjećam da sam kao mala tada imala takve reakcije da kada čujem neki zvuk sirene ili čujem da se nešto dešava napolju, u tom istom momentu ja dobijem bolove u stomaku. Prosto to je već, da kažem, neki psihosomatska reakcija bila. Da.
Isto dan kada smo napustili zapravo Kosovo, mi smo tada ručali i samo su došli jedan od mojih stričeva i rekao spremite se, imate 10 minuta, dolazi kamion i idemo. Imao pojma šta će da bude sa nama. Bilo je, ja mislim, preko 50 ljudi u tom kamionu koji je bio prekriven nekom ceradom. Mi smo bukvalno 10 sati bili ispod cerade.
Sjećam se da je bilo teško doći iz tog našeg sela pa do Novog Sada. To je trajalo nekoliko dana naše putovanje. I bilo je momenata kada smo bili kod rođaka u nekim kućama, bilo je kada smo spavali u kamionima i molili da nas prevezu autobusima gdje god smo naišli.
Moji su odlučili da pođu za Podgoricu i od 99. mislim tamo smo. Prvih 6 mjeseci kada smo stigli zapravo u Podgoricu bili jako, jako teško. Kažem, teško je tada. Tada je baš bilo teško. Jer smo živjeli pod šator 6 mjeseci. I najgore je bilo kada je kiša padala, recimo. Jer ono bi poplavilo bukvalno. I majka bi nas budila i tako tražila neki ćošak u šatoru gdje možemo da sednemo, da nema toliko vode.
Sve te poteškoće u stvari tebe čine jačim. Ja mislim da sam ja ispala jača osoba zbog toga i možda i sigurnija i prihvatam ljude takvi kakvi su.
Jedan period mog života sam radio na tome da kažem, problemi sa kojim se ja suočam kao pripadnik jedne manjine u Crnoj Gori, pogotovo te grupe koje je došla sa Kosova, sa kojim se sve problemima suočavamo, pokušavao sam kroz svoj rad, kroz aktivizam da nekako približim široj javnosti šta nas tišti na neki način i na čem bi trebalo da se radi.
U školi radim već punih 5 godina. Kako sam završila fakultet, tako sam i počela da radim u toj istoj osnovnoj školi u kojoj sam i ja završila 8. razred. Na naših učenika su učenici romske nacionalnosti koji uglavnom potiču sa prostora Kosova i Metohije. Obzirom da sam i ja dete koje potiče iz slične životne priče, ja sam i sama dete koje je došlo sa 5 godina u novu društvenu sredinu, dakle sa prostora Kosova i Metohije, u Novi Sada živi i tada ni ja nisam znala jezik sredine, tako da razumem sa kojim poteškoćama se bore i razumem kako je to kada si nov i kada ne razumeš šta te pitaju i ne razumeš šta treba da odgovoriš i kada nemaš adekvatnu podršku od strane drugih, kada si, da kažem, neprihvaćen.
Svi smo živi, zdravi, uspeli smo da negde izgradimo i tu neku našu kuću tamo sad, da koliko toliko imamo normalne uslove za život i da smo tu kao porodica uvijek bili jedan uz drugog.
Pa kada bi videla sebe sada kao malu i u tom nekom detinjstvu tada, rekla bih sebi da će sve proći, da će se sve srediti i da ću biti srećna i da će moja porodica biti srećna.
Kada bih sebe sad iz ove perspektive, ne znam, se obratio tom, ne znam, djetetu tada, ne znam šta bih rekao osim ne boj se, ne znam. Ne boj se, proći će, sve će biti u redu.
Thank you all. I'm sure that this very emotional movie with not only emotions but a lot of thoughts as well. So now we will have our panel discussion, and I would like to invite our panelists to come. So please have a seat here. And after the short panel discussion, we will open the discussion for the broader audience. So you will have an opportunity to reflect, ask questions, and comment on that as well. Thank you. So I will introduce our panelists today. We have the two co-authors of the movie, Sevdjulje Ramadani. She is a CEU student, part of the sociology and social anthropology program of the same department. Thank you, Julie, for agreeing to come here. And the other co-author of the movie is Anna Godadze. She's a CEU student, the human rights program in the legal department. Thank you, Anna. And Serjan Bakhtiari. Serjan is a CEU student at public administration. And he is also one of the protagonists of the movie that we just saw. And here connecting the past and the present and the experiences of Romani people in the war, we cannot escape and talk about what is happening currently. So we invited as well two colleagues from Ukraine to share also with us their experiences. We have here Alexandra Koryak. She is part of the human rights monitoring. She is a coordinator, and from the European Human Rights Center here, she is also part of the Romani graduate preparatory program. She is alumni. Thank you. Welcome here, and thank you for agreeing to come and talk with us. As well, we have Angelica Bilova. She's part of the Voice of Romani, which is an association of Romani women in Ukraine. Thank you. We are very happy to have you here. Thank you. So my first questions are.
Apologize again, technical. Sure. It's important that people can see you, so.
It's better. Yeah. Okay. So Julie and Anna, I would like firstly to ask you to share more about your experience doing the movie and your motivation behind it, and how did you decide to create a movie regarding the war and the experiences of people in the war of Kosovo?
Yes, I can start. This movie was actually part of our course, documentary course in the whole semester. And it was really learning experience because we did everything by ourselves. So we recorded, we did interviews, we edited, and it was really learning experience. But the motivation, I think, is personal generally, because my family also fled the Kosovo War. And I know pretty much. I know Gianni, who is my friend, and I also know my sister. And kind of, I think that their childhood was destroyed during this war, and kind of I saw some commonalities between those two stories, and so I started thinking maybe if I can present those two perspectives. And also we have a male and also female character. That was also important to me, that we show those two perspectives. And yes, so that was my motivation, I think. But also I think you also have to say about your personal motivation.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thank you so much for your interest, for inviting us. And perhaps next time we'll be able to fully the technical issues respond to this one, but hopefully you'll got the idea behind it. So motivation for me was also kind of personal. I had several ideas on my mind, but when I met Julie, I was completely sure that I want to work on this project because one of my best friends also come from Kosovo, and they share the same surname, so it was kind of coincidence. And I perceived it as a sign, so I decided to work on this movie. And we knew not that much in the very beginning. I mean, the technical stuff. So Joey very well, really helped us a lot in terms of putting everything together, all those ideas and technical, side of the movie. So I think in the end, it's not that bad for the first try. And also another motivation was that I was, I guess, 14 years old at high school when I also made a movie, and it was also about the Kosovo, but it was about the children. So I made two movies in my life, and both of them about Kosovo. So it's a logical continuation of this story. So yeah, this is the basic idea.
Thank you. Okay, so my next question is to one of the main characters in this movie, so Jan. Gianni, I'll call her Gianni.
So formal.
Yeah, Gianni. Well, for me, it's personally very difficult to watch the movie and to reflect on that, and and I cannot imagine how it's for you. So, if you like, could you share with us how do you feel as a person who experienced the war and a person who also talked about it, and just share with us your thoughts.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. First, I would honestly like to congratulate once more to my dear friends Anna and Julie for deciding to work on this topic, because, and also for you guys who found that not easy, because, and it took a lot of time and energy. But I'm super grateful because we managed to at least share stories that have to be told. I believe so, and this is actually the reason why I decided to take part in the movie, because I believe we have to talk about, in a way, the events that mark our lives. It's not easy to first accept to be part of this kind of project when you have to be super vulnerable in a way, because you are evoking things that you kind of try to forget, because war is not something that we are cheerful about and we like to think about it, especially if we have experienced it. But I believe that maybe if it was not Julie and Anna, who I consider really good friends, I would really consider whether I want to take part in this kind of project. But then I believe that I had the trust that they will really share the message of what I went through and how I felt during that time. From that perspective, once more, guys, thank you so much for that. And I don't know, I just saw that I have to talk about it. I have to talk about it because even now it's not so easy just to try to think about everything, honestly. But I'm glad that I managed to speak about my experiences during the war, and for sure it changed me completely in a way, and also later the things I've done in my life, especially when it comes to activism and to kind of just try to contribute to better the position of my community, but also my society. I think it had a huge impact on who I am today. So I'll stop there. And of course, I would be more than happy if someone from the audience would have a question, a particular question to answer.
Thank you, Jenny. Okay, so my next question is to Alexandra. How do you feel watching the movie and having in mind that you've been experiencing currently the war and from the position of the Romani people now and Romani people in the past? What are your own thoughts watching this movie regarding the war in Kosovo?
So yeah, thank you once again for having us here. I think it's really important to raise once again the issue about war in Ukraine. But I think we can't compare these two wars, because it's really different wars right now. What it was in Kosovo in that time and what is now happening in Ukraine. So I think all of people here and who's watching us, they understand this, because in Ukraine, we have Russian invasion. So, but what I felt when I watched this movie, because I had a pleasure watch it before and now I rewatch it again, and what is similar, that I think all people who is like, because it's hard to explain when you right now facing like this kind of experience. So yes, I think the common between us, that all of us are feeling fear, like huge fear, not only about ourselves and our family, but about all country in general. And I think it's, I don't know, common to all of us. But all this event, yes, we are here now talk also about Roma people who like were in Kosovo at that time, because like a lot of people here in this audience here, like a lot of Roma people. And I'm a person who work, yes, with Roma like for a long time, and of course I'm Roma myself. And now we are coordinating human rights monitoring from European Roma Rights Center, and we see that, I mean, all of us knows that Roma people is the most discriminated minority in all Europe. And we see that in the time of war in Ukraine, it became like even worse, of course, and we can't deny this like fact, because it is truly fact. And what we see that unfortunately Roma, wherever they go, they are facing unequal treatment in countries, either inside Ukraine right now when they need, for example, humanitarian aid, or either they go in abroad, like, so I'm sorry, I don't like word refugees, because we are not refugees like from the legislation perspective, yes, but we are like, just to generalize ourselves, of course, we were forced to fled our country. So, and also those Roma who were forced to fled the country, they're facing like in that foreign countries discrimination like a lot. So maybe my colleague Angelica, just to not tell all story about these facts and about these cases, maybe my colleague Angelica will continue to talk about this.
Yeah, because Sasha saw that I prepare some statements, because I'm really nervous about to talk about our experience, about my experience, and what and about current situation in Ukraine. It's really very hard for us. I was 3 years old when the war in Kosovo began, and only at school we were taught partly about the war in Kosovo. And what do these wars have in common? First of all, it is a struggle for independence and a protest of citizens who do not want to be under authoritarian rule. There are also killings of civilians, ruined lives, and mass immigration. I want everyone who listens and watches us to understand that human rights for all who are currently in Ukraine, it is like a fairy tale. It is a promise that has not been fulfilled. Civilians in Ukraine are being killed. Rockets are being fired at civilians, are being shelled. Women and children are being raped in occupied territories. Men are being tortured and killed, and houses are being looted. All this is being done and continues to be done by Russian soldiers and soldiers who are fighting on Russia's side. Soldiers who come to our land, to our Ukraine, and took our lives, our normal life. I was happy in my Ukraine. Like many other Ukrainians, we have always had freedom of speech
democracy, not ghostly, but real. We chose the government ourselves. We decided with whom we should go and on the path to a better Ukraine. And that is why people now stop tanks with their bare hands, and women and men go to the armed forces of Ukraine themselves. Because we don't need the Russian peace. We are free and it is independent, and we will never give it up. And I'm really proud of every Ukrainian who defends our country, for volunteers, who raises funds and sends humanitarian aid to Ukraine from Europe, who provides humanitarian aid in cities in Ukraine. And today, Ukraine and Ukrainians are making history, the history of freedom and independence. Roma in Ukraine also joined the armed forces. Women prepare lunches for defenders and territorial defenders. But Roma people are still a vulnerable group. And what I want to say regarding the problems which faced by Roma people, first of all, it is a humanitarian aid, because due to the law of integration into society and cooperation with different social services, due to lack of different technical means, most Roma do not receive information about available humanitarian aid, how to get it on the ground. And that is why a lot of work is currently entrusted to Roma organization, Roma activists, Roma mediators, and our organization, Voice of Romani, thanks to EVZ Founding, have already provided aid to more than 750 people in Kryvyi Rih and Zaporizhzhia in southeastern Ukraine, and launch work in the Dnipro and Kherson region, which is now occupied. The second problem is the lack of documents. We personally faced this problem of lack of documents among the Roma when we started organizing the evacuation, because many Roma are currently applying to leave the country during the war. The second problem, it is a discrimination Roma refugees from Ukraine in other countries. As Alexandra mentioned, we work in ERC about monitoring the human rights violations on the borders, and every week we receive cases of discrimination in different countries. In the Czech Republic, for example, 2 cases were registered when one family, 12 people, was housed far from the city in old office building, and no one answered their calls until Roma NGO were involved in solving this problem. And the second case, when all Roma were expelled from the reception center, social service, and visas were not issued to them. In Germany, incomplete social benefits are provided. In Moldova, Roma refugees, spoiled food is fed. All these cases require a quick response, coverage of problems, advocacy, and we can fight for better conditions for Roma together. And also I have some recommendation to those who listen us and watch us. Yeah, and maybe we can continue our discussion, and I will add this or.
Yeah, thank you. I would ask actually to share how people could help anyhow, because many of you actually have activist background, and they engage actively in different NGOs, Romani and non-Romani, and your experience working with Romani groups and helping. And thank you so much for raising all these very important points. I would just like to clear something that I absolutely agree that we're not comparing the wars here, and human experiences could not be comparable in that situation. We are in absolute in solidarity with all of the people facing the war, because we know that the war is not faced by any only with particular ethnicity. And thank you for pointing out the Angelica and Alexandra for,
You can call me just Sasha. I think
Sasha.
it'll be
Great,
easier.
thank you very much, Sasha. Yeah.
Because Alexandra is sophisticated.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, Angelica and Sasha, thank you so much for pointing out the some of the issues Romani people face. So regarding that, my question would be actually to all of you, and feel free to express your thoughts about it. As activists and as people who've been actively engaged working human rights organizations and Romani organizations, seeing the Romani experiences, firstly the question is, why do you think that this is the position, and somehow did it change or not? Having in mind the position of Roma in the past and in the present. And the second question is, what do you think could be done regarding the Romani position and vulnerability in this case? Any of you, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
And before I answer this question, I would want to say a couple of words about Ukraine, because I think it's a must, even from my side, because I have many personal connections with Ukraine. And myself, I'm coming from Georgia, so we were absolutely through the same in 2008. So that country was also attacked by Russia. And but the difference was like it lasted a couple of days, because literally the whole world arrived in Georgia, and they were standing in the middle of the city on the main avenue with the president of Georgia. So everyone was trying their best to literally intervene in this war and stop it as soon as possible. But back then it happened. But what I wanted to say, and also perhaps raise awareness about this topic, is that in 2008, before Georgia was attacked by Russia, several months before, both Ukraine and Georgia were rejected on membership of NATO. And after several months, Georgia was attacked, and several months later, Ukraine in 2014. And now we see this atrocious attack on Ukraine. And what I want to clarify is that sometimes I hear when people say it's Russian-Ukrainian war. And I think this is terribly wrong, because it's not a war between two countries, but it's a full-fledged attack on a sovereign state from Russian side. And this is not a war fought between two countries. And there's a huge difference between that. It's not Russian-Ukrainian war, but it's a, yes, we have to be very clear. So this is not a place where we should be like very, say, careful with the terms. No, it's like crystal clear situation now. I think there's barely anything like this much clear as it's the situation now in Ukraine. And of course, my solidarity to the Ukrainian people, and I also posted some of them as much. I mean, I think every single, contribution counts in this. I mean, whoever and however we can, we should be there for them. And because it's an emergency situation, and we don't even know how long it will last. And the end of human suffering, which is going on there, it's like endless. And what we see every single day, it's really heartbreaking. And when you see that you can't really do anything other than just to provide humanitarian aid or provide this military equipment and wear Ukrainian flags with you and posting maybe on social media. But I think still, when you show the solidarity, every single action counts. So this is what I wanted to say. And in that context, because I also worked for Roma people back in Georgia, because I worked for UNHCR, and we were doing this, a lot in the field of statelessness and the refugees and displaced persons. And what I observed is that the needs of Romani people, differs per state, I guess. And sometimes it's lack of documents, sometimes it's like it's not the issue, but discrimination and hostile environment is an issue. So I think it's there are like similar problems, but there are also specific ones for the states. And but what I see this challenge which perpetuates over the years, it's still lack of documents. And we also saw that this was an issue when Romani people crossing the border of Ukraine and escaping country, but as they lacked documents, it was really hard for the receiving states to establish their identity and accommodate their needs. And even if they were subjected to discrimination, this is, a real problem for them because it hinders their access to rights, their access to healthcare, education, work, and it's like starting point of having access in the state. And also to feel yourself as a citizen and as a part of the community, because without identity document, you can't even participate in the, elections. So you don't really have any power as a citizen to participate. So this feeling of exclusion is there. So from my practical perspective and also my observation is that if we want durable solution for Romani people, the starting point should be lack of documents and raising awareness in that sense. Because sometimes this was issue in Georgia where they didn't even know particular community members who didn't really understand why this was necessary because they were living in their close community. So it's also important to reach out, to talk, explain why this matters, and also provide assistance in terms of obtaining those documents. And my concluding point would be that maybe we should also reconsider the advocacy activities in that sense that it's good to provide help, but I don't think this is the right term. I think we should be more focused on empowerment, on supporting, not helping, because helping is something, of course, it's very decent, but I think what is necessary now is support and empowerment and how we can actually, ensure their self-resilience and self-sufficiency. And UNHCR is doing a great job in that sense, and hopefully in long-term perspective, this will help particular results. I hope so. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Anna, and I absolutely agree with you that we've seen examples of, as our guest from Ukraine mentioned, how also Romani people being resilient, and they also join the forces and they try really the rest of the country. So I really agree that it should be support as much as we can rather than help. I would like to give the opportunity to Sevdjulje and Johnny to share also their thoughts, and maybe after that we can go again to Sasha and Angelica. Maybe they can express their experiences regarding the issues that their organizations face with the Romani situation and helping supporting Romani people.
Maybe I can actually add on this. I agree with a lot of the things that you say, and I also think that lack of documentation when it comes to Roma people is a really big issue. Yeah, we are not comparing kind of these two words, but I can say from my experience, and some people who also fled the war from Kosovo, still after 2 decades don't have full legal, solid status. And I think that we see that actually the past still construct our present, and we have a long-term consequences of the war. So I think we should take this in consideration, and I think we need continuous support, and not just, of course, in the state of emergency, but I think the war consequences are like kind of life consequences, and we need kind of to prevent this kind of prolonged insecurity, which people still, experience. I can say about some Roma people who still don't have this sole issue who fled the Kosovo War. So yeah, I can say that. So I think also in the movie, I think we kind of wanted to say that yeah, there is a struggle when you leave the home, but there are many other struggles when you are a newcomer and also a minority in the new environment. I think this is another level of struggles, yes, Jenny. So that we want to also talk about. So we have kind of Johnny and my sister who are very resilient and who are a good example how they kind of solve this traumatic experience. But yeah, I think we should take into consideration that there are totally new level of struggles when you go somewhere else and you need to restore lives from the beginning. And I think in this sense, I think Roma people, many of them are maybe more vulnerable today because they have less resources to do that. And yeah, my family also finally came in the new city. And when my parents actually decided to flee the war, we didn't know where we will go and where we will start new life. So yeah, and I think this movie kind of also, I think it's important to share those experiences because I think talking is also a process of healing.
Thank you, George.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I really hope you your families and and I wanted to say that what Hannah mentioned, and I mean, in my years, disabled, for those who are working, protecting human rights, and believe you will agree when I say that if we violate the human dignity as the main source of human rights, then we cannot talk about other rights, especially when it comes to being stateless. Because when you are stateless, you don't have access to any right. And this is something that's been haunting Kosovo Roma for years now, wherever they went, especially in my country in the last couple of years before to join CEU. I was trying to work in this field and just trying to tackle this issue. The problem is that sometimes even those who are in charge to solve this issue are feeling neglecting and saying that it's not such a huge issue. But even if one person is stateless, we have an issue because this person cannot access any right. And it is best reflected now when people, especially those who come from minority, because if you are a minority and you don't have any paper to show your identity, then most probably you are going to not get such a good treatment, especially when you try to cross the borders. And we are witnessing how Roma community has been treated lately when they are trying to go to Hungary, for example. There are lots of footages, there are lots of stories about people being treated differently just because of their ethnic background. And I believe, at least in the time of war, we should show more solidarity towards everyone and not make this distinction based on their ethnic background. So I don't know, I would just like to maybe send also a message from these points, also people who may be watching this, that let's try to, there is only going to be injustice, we are aware of that, and it's not going to vanish. It's an utopia, and we believe that it's an utopia that there is a just world in a way, but let's at least try in time of crisis. Let's try not to make these distinctions, and let's try to be there for everyone.
Really here the topic of human dignity, and also I mentioned that belonging to a certain country, to a state. I'm really thankful for bringing up the issue of the statelessness, because yes, it's not only important when you can actually choose your government and in terms of elections, but as we see in time of crisis, when actually you cannot even support people when they are stateless. So with this note, I would like to hand the word to Sasha. Thank you.
I think you already, I don't know my Alexandra name, but it's already Sasha. Yes, so yes, thank you everyone who already raised an issue about statelessness. Yes, it's also important to say about this, but you know, what I would like to say that I think it's what we are like have experienced from our perspective and from our work, that unfortunately when it comes to help Roma people, a lot of people rely on another Roma. And it's like really an issue, because when it comes to provide humanitarian aid, we receive calls from humanitarian centers that, oh, we have here Roma people, could you please give them humanitarian aid because you are Roma organization and you're helping to Roma. And it's really strange because, yes, of course, and a lot of people right now rely on that Roma people will help just Roma people, and and we can see that even in this kind of circumstances, people, we have like differences between Roma people and non-Roma people, even when it comes to, I don't know, asking for help or etc. So, and what I'm trying to say that maybe maybe we need to raise an issue that it's, of course, we can say about equality and etc. It's like really great words, but in reality we have this, and I think that we are trying to explain like people who are working not only in the fields but to government that it's like I don't know, affirmative action wherever, but maybe you can look a bit more on more vulnerable people, especially in these times of war. Yes, because also like one issue that like we all know that some of Roma people, they maybe can't read or write, and unfortunately it's also reality. And also in this regard, they're like in more vulnerable position. So that Roma people they need more like assistance, because when they, for example, crossing the border and they are lost, they don't know what to do, like where to go, where ask for help, and we have this, that yes, and once again, like these people who are working in the fields from humanitarian centers or etc., they ask first of all Roma organizations to help Roma. And what I'm trying to say that maybe we need to like explain once again to people that it doesn't matter is it Roma or not non-Roma, that we need to help to all, I don't know, internally displaced person who is still like in Ukraine. Yes, we need to help for every person who's crossing the border and who's forced to flee the country. And I think this is like important from my perspective, but I will give more to my colleague. And actually we have also our friends from Ukraine, like here in audience, Viola and Elvira. Yes, maybe girls also would like to share something with us.
Yeah, let's hear Angelica, and in a couple of minutes we'll give the floor to the audience as well.
Yeah, I think there is different spheres where we can be useful to help Roma people, Ukrainian Roma people. First of all, as I mentioned, you can participate in the highlighting of Roma discrimination cases. and influence better conditions for Roma people in other countries, for Roma like refugees. I don't like this word, but yeah. You also can help Roma who have arrived in your country, be a volunteers, partners in the evacuation process, because now we have also good partners in Germany who helped us with evacuation of people, and they will help them to in different issues about temporary protection and accommodation for them, and it is a really very important issue. Also, you can join to the collection of humanitarian aid, because yeah, it's really the problem about this problem mentioned Sasha, and really now we have many Roma NGOs in Ukraine to help Roma now, but there is a deficit of different special hygienic things in Ukraine. For example, it's baby diapers, milk formula for infants. It is food for babies. So it is really deficit not only in the occupied territories, but also in like a safe cities. But now Ukraine is not unsafe. So you can collect humanitarian aid in your countries and send to Ukraine. And me and Sasha in a week we will send the first cargo from Budapest, and we also waiting for some funds from our partners. I can say this. Yes, of course. Because it's a secret. Yeah, yeah, it is a really good partners, and it's like an emergency fund, emergency grant, Madre. And we really thank for all people and all organizations who help Ukrainian Roma now, Roma people now. And we have a warehouse kindly provided of CEU for humanitarian aid, logistics to the border, and in Ukraine, and as well as coordinators in Ukraine, Roma coordinators who distribute aid, humanitarian aid to Roma people. And the last one, you can donate. You can donate funds to organizations that send these funds to Roma NGO. For example, we have a few crowdfunding companies. For example, ERC, European Roma Rights Center, is currently raising funds on crowdfunding platform and distributing them to the needs of the Roma community. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I hope that real people will consider to donate and help in any way that they can do. Also, actually, CEU has campaigns for providing humanitarian aid. So any of us students here, faculty people could just really just donate things in front of the building, and there is people who help and students who are in charge of this campaign and really trying to support somehow. Yeah, and thank you so much. So I would like to open up the discussion for all the people here on site and online, of course. If there are any questions, comments, and thoughts, we will be happy to hear. Yes. There are microphones in the room.
Okay. Thank you for being here today and giving us the time to discuss. I have a question because I've read a report in 2017 by the European Roma Rights Center about summary. It was a summary of a 20 years police brutality, police violence against Roma in Ukraine. And my concern was that now what we see is actually a hyper militarization of the civilian society as well. And we see what feminist activists have pointed out is a hyper masculinization also of the general public, not just in Ukraine, but also abroad. And we see how at the border, foreign students of color were being assaulted by Ukrainian border force. Trans Ukrainians and queer Ukrainians were not being allowed to escape, and they were being searched. So my concern is that even looking forward and hoping that one day this will be over, it has actually undone years of feminist activism and feminist organizing, and as well as fighting police violence. So I think for me, this is something that I keep in mind, but maybe it's not an urgent concern now, but I think it's very important, especially looking at this report and looking at now this really hyper militarization. I think this will have repercussions after the invasion and the war is over. So any thoughts, if you have any thoughts on this? Sorry, because it turned out to be like a comment.
Thank you for
but
the
that was
comments.
kind of
I think what you're raising is it's not the it is urgent, and it's one of the same issues that we raise as being stateless, and of course there's this more intersectional perspective, and queer people and women that face as well. So these are issues that they in general exist, and they should be definitely solved, and we should be aware of them. I think also that it's important to raise that especially these people are even more vulnerable right now. So thank you for raising. Of course,
I'm sorry. You say something, but you didn't ask a question.
Just thoughts. That's all.
Yeah, the thoughts.
If I'm not mistaken.
Because I'm not like totally agree with the statement that it's hyper masculinization or etc. I mean, of course, before the war, we had like issues with like human rights violations of LGBTQI people in Ukraine and etc. And of course, this wartime might put all vulnerable groups and all minorities in more like worse position. It's obviously yes. Of course, I heard that some of the trans persons, they were not allowed to cross the border because, for example, he or she has documents like yes, he's like a man, but he perceives herself like a woman. Yes, I mean we had this issue, and I'm truly on the side of like all people who needs like help and who needs protection. But you know, it's. I mean, I'm trying to explain like in a correct way my thoughts. It's really hard times for Ukraine, and we under martial law. It's definitely like this, and we definitely need to raise all the issues about human rights violations in Ukraine. But sometimes it's hard to judge people, for example, who is working on the borders or who is like because it's war, and I don't know. I mean, I truly support all people who needs protection. Yes, but it's when you're inside the country, it's a bit different, you know, and but from the like foreign perspective, sometimes news shows like another perspective. It's like, you know, we had this news, maybe some of you saw this, when Roma women they had these hands and they were like yes, their faces were green. Did you see this picture? Yes, about
how torture
yes, like people were like torture, but they weren't torture like in the, because and a lot of people from foreign countries started to write to us like, oh my God, they really tortured, and they are Roma, and what people doing with them. And we tried to explain people this news started to occur firstly in the Russian news, and it was somehow propaganda as well from Russian side, because of course I'm like human rights defender. I'm not supporting this way to punish people because it's illegal as well. But it wasn't because of they are Roma. It wasn't because of this. It you know, it was because they were looters who were kept by territorial defense. But people started to raise an issue that it's just because they were Roma, but not. We, you know, in Ukraine right now, people chose the way punish looters like this, you know, to, I don't know, to put on their faces this green paint or like this. And this is actually hard to see these people, but we are like human rights defenders, we are raising this, but sometimes, you know, people they choose their way to punish.
I'm really sorry, but Sasha, I'm not agree with what you are saying. It's the way that you are justifying the aggression against Roma, and this situation is because they are Roma, because in Ukraine is really, it's not currently, is coming from years and years of discrimination against Roma, and to say now that because they are stealing or whatever, you know, is, and the people is punished how they think, you know, it's how, okay, so let's do whatever we want because we are in both sides.
So just a second, like we need some order.
Thank you for.
But how would you can say this, you know, in publicly to say to justify?
I can say it publicly because we had an article on your media and our activists from Ukraine, and we personally, we said that it's the part of Russian propaganda.
But it was military from Ukraine. It's the picture of military from Ukraine.
Yes.
We cannot deny what is going on there inside in the country. Let's be honest, what is going there, you know?
It wasn't just because they are Roma, Alba.
Because there were so many pictures of Ukrainian.
I saw many pictures because I have friends inside of the country and they sent to me pictures, and it's because they are Roma, because they are discriminated because of the
when you're
ethnicity.
saying like this, your support, you know, Russian propaganda that
Thank you.
I don't care about
Okay,
Russian propaganda.
I need to make a break. Wait. We have many
discuss
hands.
this later.
We have
and
many hands.
No, I would like to
Don't
discuss with you
listen
about
to
that,
people.
but you are addressing these issues in front of the public, so you have to also to get the response about that, it's like you cannot come here and to say whatever you want, and not get an answer.
Okay.
And discuss this privately. No, it's not like that.
Okay, thank you, Alba, and thank you, Sasha. Thank you all. Now, just like we will continue this. We have many raised hands on this issue. I just want also to share some of my thoughts, general thoughts. We are here all today, all on the same side. All in the because I jumped because I had to. We are all on the same side, and we are all with the same goal. We are speaking the same language, maybe different perception, but we are speaking the same language. But one of our guests raised the question that she raised. I would also agree in the sense that in the time of war, if we have like women activism, we don't speak now in the intersectional discrimination or something, but in the time of war, all the activism and all the progress that we have been made for the years, yes, again we are going back on these gender roles. Women and kids are going out of the country, and men are staying and fighting for the country. So we can say that how the war also showing this kind of regress in that sense. First of all, that. Second, I saw also that Rufat and somebody else, Viola, they had a question. They had some kind of thoughts to share. Maybe just we want like to respect each opinion of each other. We can agree or disagree. That is totally relevant. But we don't want to mislead this discussion.
Thank you, Milana. I would just add to that we are not attacking and picking up sides here. I would agree that definitely all the points related to more vulnerable group suffering, these are issues that should be pointed out. But on the side note that we are not attacking anybody, these are points that definitely they should be raised, and it is important to talk about them. There were other hands and people who wanted to talk regarding that. Okay, Viola, yeah, go ahead, Viola.
Thank you. So I would like to come back a bit for the movies that we saw several minutes ago. I would like to share a bit my situation. My story is that only a month ago I have fled from the Chernihiv. Chernihiv, it is the city that you can see in many international media. It's covered by a lot of journalists. That it is the city that was surrounded by Russian invaders for almost a month, and it's destroyed for 70%. And when I saw the movie, I corresponded to the feelings that Serjan was telling, that it was really difficult for him to speak about those things that happened with him back in his childhood. But I would like to tell that it's totally different experience when you are when you see the things from the perspective when you are adult, when you completely understand what is happening with you, what would happen. And I really like what was told by Anna, maybe because I'm your colleague as well. Back in 2018, I graduated from legal department. I really like how you summarize the thoughts on the complex problems that Roma people are facing right now during fleeing the country. There is also a complex, in my opinion, complex issues that people are facing right now, because there is a problem, and there is a question how to work with them who manage to flee, how to work with the Roma people who cannot flee because of the lack of the documents, and how to work with those Roma who cannot flee and who are surrounded by invaders or who are staying in the occupied towns by the Russian people. So there are different vectors how international media organizations should work. But talking again about my experience, I was completely disappointed on how international organization was working, because basically they didn't work at all. When I was staying for 18 days in my city, is a very strong
bombardment when I heard the blast every 30 minutes, and there were no any international organizations. I was trying, there were no green corridors provided. Even people who were planning to flee, they couldn't. Even there is a problem that we didn't have fuel even, so we had our car, but we couldn't drive it. And there was also a problem that, for example, I was thinking that I was working in Ukraine in one of the best international organizations in the world, which protects democracy, human rights, and rule of law. You know, the name of that organization, the organization is called Council of Europe, but that organization didn't manage to evacuate me. So basically, my right to life was even violated and was not ensured by my employer in Ukraine. So I would like to tell that something was missed from your conversation, or maybe you forgot about that, not only humanitarian aid should be provided for Roma, there is also another thing as providing mental counseling, because it's very difficult to live with the trauma that people experience. For example, I can share that I really appreciate that the CEU dorm has provided me shelter right now, that I can stay now, but during the night, all of you know that it's located quite close to the airport. And sometimes during the night, I wake up and I'm wondering why I'm listening only, why I can hear only how the plane is landing, because I expect to listen something, but to hear something else. So for me, it's not enough, to listen just to play. There is something that with which we are dealing, and I think there is also a problem for Roma that were suffering from discrimination. I can tell that I have never experienced discrimination, but there is a problem for those who had it, who already had that threat and all the time has been on the stress. And again, war is something that came to them as a very huge, grief for their mental health. And what else I would like to tell is that I really appreciate that we have a Roma women activist from Ukraine who has managed to receive education and who managed to flee and to provide humanitarian aid, to provide human rights consultation or legal consultation for those Roma who are uneducated and who cannot even understand where they are right now, and as Alexandra told, and how they can legally cross border, or how can they find the humanitarian aid, for example, for them. So I really thankful for the period of my life when I could graduate from the Roma graduate preparation program. Then I graduated from the master degree from the Central European University, because I understand right now that for me to start a completely new life in any country in Europe, it's much easier than for those who didn't manage to receive or even to complete a primary or secondary education back in Ukraine. So I'm really thankful for that institution and for the donors that provided me help. I would like also to recall my education fund who financed my master's degree. So thank you for everyone. And I think only by cooperating with other Roma international organizations, we can actually help, or actually not help, but as to empower our Roma communities in Ukraine. So I'm praying every day that nightmares that happen in Ukraine will just finish soon. So thank you for everyone for taking the possibility to speak right now.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with us. I would invite our panelists to give them the opportunity to share their reflection and closing remarks, and then we're gonna proceed to Milana. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was really emotional to listen to your speech because I also have colleagues in Germany who are in human rights camps, and it's totally destroyed and visually and yes, but they keep working, which is very inspirational. I don't even understand how can they under such circumstances because their building is halfway destroyed and due to bombing, but they still keep working and still standing their ground, which is very inspirational. My concluding remark would be the role of women in this situation, because I don't really like the discourse the way media portrays women. Because I mean, it's like all the same story. Women, children, elderly. It's like classical combination that they're fleeing the country and they're ones vulnerable to need and require emergency and assistance and everything. They are no way less brave than when we're staying and fighting. Because just to take a moment and think when you're leaving country with, say, children or even alone, and you're crossing this catastrophe which is going on in Ukraine, you live border without anything, maybe just one bag or even without a bag, and you need to survive and you need to take care of yourself, of your children. I mean, is it that easy? No, no way. So I don't really like how media portrays women in this situation, because I don't think that because they are leaving the country to save their lives and the lives of their children, they are less resilient and brave than the men who are staying in the country. No way. They're equally brave and strong as the men who are staying and fighting, because everybody is making contributions as they can in this situation. And also, I just quickly want to mention that I'm also a bit concerned when we see the negotiations from both countries. You barely see women in the delegations. I mean, it's like all the same story. Like, men are like sitting around the table and discussing the fate of this atrocity which is going on in Ukraine. We barely see women participating in the political. We don't see them political engagement, even though they are, I'm sure, there, but not like on the surface as such. So just my concluding remark would be, as you also mentioned, regardless of the ethnicity, regardless of the sex, and all those grounds that are usually for very much the grounds for discrimination. I mean, we need to be more mindful about that and to perceive human beings as human beings, regardless of their backgrounds, ethnicity. I mean, it sounds maybe a bit pathetic, but this is the way it is. And if we reach this kind of level of consciousness that we look at human beings as human beings, those problems will be naturally solved, I guess.
Thank you very much, Anna. I would just conclude with all of the thoughts and comments that you shared together, and with our last comment from Viola, and knew that 2 points stand out. Firstly, portraying people as human beings regardless of their ethnicity and gender and so on, because like everybody's facing war right now, and like there is no particular group. And as well, thank you, Viola, again. Thank you to our panelists for being and sharing your thoughts and comments. And we should all consider how actually not only thinking about the war as something happening at a distance, but also because people are coming in each of the countries, and it's not easy. So we should consider to help somehow. So thank you very much, everybody, for having us here and sharing your thoughts and comments. Thank you very much. So now closing remarks by Diana.
Yes, I just want to thank you, Maria. You were not in the camera, so you were not in the stream.
You can put a picture of me.
But she was brilliant, so she doesn't need like pictures of me. So thanks for our panelists, for our guests. So we are here all with one common goal. Also, I would like to say how we are also grateful for our professor Martin for all the help and suggestions and assistance. And I would like to invite you to continue our discussion, like with a coffee that is served in front of the door, and we can continue our discussion there. We can chat, share the possibilities how to help. Also, we